Hey, this is Mike from Mike Buys Houses. We recently had an interesting experience speaking with a new landlord who bought the property just a few months ago and is already dealing with a set of ridiculously unbelievable hoarder tenants. So I just want to make a quick video kind of detailing what options we talked about that this landlord has and kind of reflect on how ridiculous it can be, how quickly being a landlord can turn into a huge headache. So this is what we talked about. So the American Psychiatry Association defines hoarding as excessively saving items that others view as worthless. And at the level of saving that occurs here, it actually impacts the activities of daily living, which just means it's harder to do the things that you're trying to do every day. And this actually occurs in 2 to 6% of the population, according to the APA, like I mentioned, which is something that kind of blew my mind and made you realize how much more common this can be than you think. And lastly, because it's defined that way by the American Psychiatry Association, this is a protected class, which means that dealing with this is just something you have to be much more careful about when a landlord. So just as a little background information, that's all we talked about. But here's what we talked about as far as actually dealing with hoarder tenants and what to do as a landlord. So now that you know hoarder tenants is something that you have to be not only on the lookout for, but something you have to be very careful when dealing with. How are you going to determine the difference? There's different levels to everything, right? So ranging from just dirty tenants all the way up to hoarders. And like I mentioned, because that is a medical illness defined by the APA, it's something you have to be very careful when dealing with. So what kind of things are you going to be looking for to differentiate dirty versus hoarding? So first, if the exits are blocked, any entrance and exit way is blocked is going to be a huge risk to your tenants and the fire risk. So that's going to be one of the biggest issues. 2, if it's interfering with any ventilation or fire alarms, that's also a red flag that this is bordering more on hoardership than just dirty. And 3, if it's attracting pests. Now that's a fine line to skate. If you're going to be going to court to evict tenants, you don't want to be doing this over just a few pests with no documented history. It's going to be something, if you're going to try to evict tenants, then you're definitely going to want to make sure they have a history documented, and also if you're going using that attracting pests definition, you're going to want to make sure it's not just 1 or 2 cockroaches. It's going to have to be a pretty aggressive infestation for a judge to rule on your behalf. So those are 3 of the big things that you're going to be looking for to differentiate just dirty tenants versus hoarders. So like I mentioned, we had this brand new landlord who was dealing with this pretty quickly into her career, and it was actually pretty aggressively crazy. I couldn't even believe it. But what kind of things can she be doing? So first, based on what her lease says, she needs to be doing whatever inspection she can. So however often her lease states that she can inspect the property, she needs to be doing that. And she needs to document everything when she's there. Take pictures, note any damage, anything like that. The second thing that we told her to do is to offer help, maybe a one-time cleaning help, get a dumpster, something like that. Just document the assistance that you're offering. You want to make sure that not only do you look like the good guy if you ever end up in court, but you actually are the good guy. Like we said in our values video, if you ever watch that, it's very important to us to do right, especially when it hurts us. And this is just another example of a possibility to do right, and it doesn't even hurt the landlord. So offer the help that you can, even if it just means taking a few hours to help throw some things out. Maybe they just couldn't throw them out due to the weight. So just something to consider. The third thing, if you're trying to move on from these tenants, you can always try cash for keys. We've talked about that in multiple videos. But basically what that is where you offer a couple $100 to a couple $1,000 for the tenants to just move out, move on. Maybe you pay for movers. But basically it's a way to incentivize them to move for greener pastures, maybe. The last thing, if you are trying to get rid of your tenants in the future via an eviction, if just the safety is not there and you just feel like it's something that you need to move forward with, then some things that you're going to have to look for when you're inspecting the property is direct damage to the house. Like I mentioned, any blocked entrances or exits, you want to make sure you have photos and videos of that, documenting dates, everything like that. Any interference with alarm systems or ventilation systems, If they are collecting any dangerous, flammable, or explosive stuff, you want to make sure you document that, because that's going to be a reason that you're going to be able to get them out of your property. You don't want to have damage to your property. Like I mentioned, attracting pests is another way. Another thing that you're going to be looking for, and like I said before, you want to make sure this isn't just some small, minute thing that's not going to help you in court when you're presenting this in front of a judge. And unsanitary conditions to the point where they can no longer use the kitchen and the bathroom. Those are deemed important and necessary things for quality of life. And if the mess has gotten to the point where those are unusable, then that's another thing that you're going to want to document for your attempted eviction process that you may be pursuing. So in conclusion, when dealing with dirty versus hoarder tenants, it's going to be very important to differentiate them first off. Like I mentioned multiple times, hoarding is a medical condition and not something that you should take lightly as a landlord. So the important things for this new landlord that we talked about is to document everything, make sure you take photos and notes. Also document your discussions with your tenant, maybe set up a 90-day plan with 30-day benchmarks to help clean up the mess. And that way it also shows if you do further down the road pursue an eviction, it shows that you were willing to take steps and work with the tenant and be a reasonable landlord. After that, I would definitely, or maybe even before that, make sure that you contact an attorney, see what your rights are as a landlord in your specific state, and see whether cash for keys or eviction may be the way for you. But either way, if this is not something that you want to even deal with, then definitely feel free to reach out to me at 267-984-4765 or visit us at MikeBuysHousesPA.com. We would always be interested in at least having a discussion about purchasing a property that has hoarder tenants. So like I've said multiple times before, it may not be the property for me, but I'm always willing to take the time to have the discussion with you and lay out kind of what options you have and do the homework on my side to see if it's something that I would be interested in. So like I said, if you don't want to deal with any of this and you'd rather just reach out to me and see what we can do for you, then give me a call at 267-984-4765 or visit us at MikeBuysHousesPA.com and fill out the form there. We'd be happy to help you. We look forward to helping you.